Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. I am your host, Nash, and let's get into it. The double game week is done, or at least part one of the double game week is done. How did you do? For me, honestly, it could have been better. Tripling up on Palace was not the best for me. I understood that they were playing teams that were better than them, but I didn't realize that they would lose 10-2 on aggregate, you know? And it all started well too. They go 2-0 up against Manchester City and we're like, okay, Crystal Palace. Eze has scored. This is nice. Richard scored, you're like, eh. But I was like, Sarr has got an assist. And then you think, okay, this is set up well. And then those are the only goals they score for the double game week that they have. After that, they proceed to concede 10 goals. So Munoz, who has been playing really well, plays both games -1. He gets -1. Like, you're better off not having had a Crystal Palace defender. And now I'm looking at my team and I'm like, are Crystal Palace really better than Bournemouth and Arsenal? Is that easier than Manchester City and Newcastle? In theory, yeah, but that doesn't mean it's an easy fixture. So now it's got me all in my doubts. And speaking of things that didn't even go as expected, Brighton 2, Leicester 2. Leicester finally scored. And they scored twice. And they could have even won the game. What's going on? Everton 1, Nottingham Forest 0. Everton score at the death. At the absolute death. And then, of course, that's when I have my defender starting, Mr. Milenkovic. I've been playing this game, so that means now when I put him on the bench, he's going to score this weekend. But I'm using my bench boost for this week, so it's going to be okay. And then if you had Asensio, why does the guy go and have both of his penalties saved? Both of them. And of course, none of us have Ramsdale, so those were 3 points. Then you go to the Chelsea match. They just concede, poof, 2 goals out of nothing. Goalkeepers just scored. Nothing can do. Both goals, good goals. And then they just struggle to score. Sancho, of course, scores the goal of the game, but they had 34 shots on goal. That's crazy. Let me just also put this into perspective. Crystal Palace, how bad they have been this double game week. In this last game against Newcastle, their combined lineup scored a total of 1 point. Mateta had 1. Eze had -1, so you get 0. Then you have Sarr, who had 2. And then Munoz got -1, so you have 1. And then you have Lemma, who scored 1, so you have 2. Then you have Hughes, who scored 0. You have Mitchell, who scored 0. And then you have Gay, who got -2. So that's 0. Then you have Lacroix, who scored 0. Richards, who scored 0. Henderson, who scored 1. So in total, when you add all of that, you have 1 point. 1 point from the whole team. And that is our most disappointing match of the day. How can the whole team get 1 point? And it's also disappointing on another level because majority of us had Isak as our captain. Now, he had 11 points over 2 game weeks, which isn't great by any standard. And Jacob Murphy was the better captain, but the best captain was Harvey Barnes. Isak individually was the most disappointing asset to own, mainly because 11 isn't great over a double game week. I think we all expected more from Crystal Palace, and they just let us down. They just did. But well done, Newcastle. You guys were incredible. Barnes scored, Jacob Murphy scored, Shar scored. There was an own goal by Gay. And then Isak scored. Murphy had the 3 points and Shar had 2. Now moving on to more disappointing things. A lot of us were confident in Mateta. 2 games, 2 points. And he gets subbed before 60. What a disappointing showing from him. Savinho, for no reason, gets a pep roulette. The team that beat Real Madrid drew 1-1 with Brentford. Are Brentford better than Real Madrid? Isak, in a double game week, gets 1 goal and 1 assist. Like I said earlier, Forest lose a clean sheet in the very last minute. And then Cunha plays a masterpiece. Ait Nouri somehow gets 14. João Pedro scores 2 goals. Fantasy. And then Kukureya. That's all. The highest game of the weekend was Manchester City 5, Crystal Palace 2. Like I said earlier, Crystal Palace started this game so promisingly. They went ahead 2 goals quickly. And I was thinking, okay, even without Gay, they look like they have this. And then out of, well, I'm not saying nowhere, but then KDB sort of remembers who he is and then goes on to put up a masterclass. He scores a bit of a free kick, Mamouche equalizes, and then halftime happens. You think, okay, something happened. Crystal Palace get the goal disallowed. Kovacic scores, Makati scores, O'Reilly scores. 5-2. Savinho doesn't play and it suddenly looks like a good decision. Pep roulette is so painful. KDB scores. Edison has another assist. Gundogan has another assist. And Nico Gonzalez has another assist. Kovacic gets 3 bonus points. De Bruyne gets 2. O'Reilly and Mamouche get 1 bonus point each. When it comes to choosing a disappointing fixture, it's a bit tough because on one end you have Brighton 2, Leicester 2. Why the hell are Brighton conceding to Leicester? And then you have Arsenal 1, Brentford 1. How do you beat Real Madrid 3-0 and then you can't keep a clean sheet against Brentford? You have Newcastle 5, Crystal Palace 0, and that's more of an asset issue than a result issue. Because why is Isak in 2 games where they score 9 goals, having 1 goal and 1 assist? What is that? And then Crystal Palace in 2 games. How are you scoring 2 goals? How are you conceding 10? It could also be Everton 1, Nottingham Forest 0. Not because Everton got a result, but because losing a clean sheet at the end is very painful. I don't know, those are too many contenders for me. I'm just going to skip that category this week. But those are my favorites. The marquee game of the week, and at this point, as you all know, it's probably the most popular game. Newcastle 4, Manchester United 1. At this point, I don't need to tell you how bad Manchester United have been. Newcastle were just the better team. Onana was not playing because he had to clear his head after the Lyon game and after the things that had happened with his wife being robbed. And his stand-in didn't do well, especially when you see the goal that he gave. And you start thinking, okay, does Manchester United have a goalkeeper problem or is it a defensive issue? Because if you're an older football fan, you will remember Peter Cech at Chelsea versus Peter Cech at Arsenal. When he was at Chelsea, he looked impregnable. But was it that he was good? Or was it that his defenders made him look good? Onana came from Inter, and Inter's defenders made him look great. Manchester United don't really have a defense that is working in a functional way right now. But anyway, I've gone too far. They lost 4-1. Now, the greatest thing that could have happened for Manchester United is if Xerxes and Bruno scored that 1-2 combination goal. That would have been a contender for goal of the month or even maybe goal of the season. To be honest, at this point, Manchester United are lucky that the bottom three are just trash. Anyway, Barnes scored 2 goals, Bruno Guimaraes scored another one, and Tonali scored a really good goal off Isak's assist. Garnacho scored a good goal as well, and Dalot had the assist for that. Isak, Jacob Murphy, and Joe Linton had the assists for Newcastle. Barnes had 3 bonus points, Tonali 2, and Bruno Guimaraes had 1 assist. 1 point. There were 4 clean sheets this week. Looking at the top performers this round, when it comes to goalkeepers, it won't surprise you that Ramsdale, who saved 2 penalties, is number 1. He has 16. Pope, who saved a penalty as well from Eze, had 15. Kepa had 11. Pickford had 9. And Martinez from Aston Villa had 6. The goalkeepers really did well this week. When it comes to defense, Fabian Schär was a top-performing defender. He had 16 points. Ait-Nouri had 14. Johnson from Ipswich had 12. Trippier had 12. And then for number 5, you have Conor Bradley and Virgil van Dijk, who had 9. Now, one of the most interesting things is that Johnson from Ipswich is 3.8. That's his value, 3.8. 12 points. Talk about bang for your buck. I didn't realize he was a defender because he was playing so high up top. He might be a differential. Now, the player of the week is Harvey Barnes. He had 27 points. He was a player we should have all had. He should have been our captain. And as you will hear later, the best points getter this week had him as triple captain. Harvey Barnes, 27 points. Jacob Murphy, 19 points. Tonali, 15 points. And Cecil, 13 points. KDB, 12 points. Joe Linton, 11 points. Partey, 10 points. Semenyo, 10 points. Doucouré, Kovacic, and Bruno Guimaraes all had 10 points. So as you can see, midfield was king. When it comes to forwards, João Pedro had 13. Isak had 11. Wissa had 9. Watkins, Marmoush, and Cunha all had 7. In case you were wondering, how did Asensio do because he missed 2 penalties? He finished with 2. Let's go over some stats from the game week. Leicester finally break their scoring duck. They scored for the first time in 8 game weeks. Had they gone without scoring for another game week, they would have matched Crystal Palace's run of 9 game weeks in a row without scoring. Unnecessary fact, Jørgen Strand Larsen has scored 5 goals in the last 4 game weeks. That's only 1 goal less than Manchester United's 2 forwards have scored all season. Chelsea had 34 shots against Ipswich. 6 of those who came from Cole Palmer. He has now failed to score in 14 consecutive league and cup appearances since netting against Bournemouth in Game Week 21. And this run includes the promoted sides as well. 532 managers triple captained Harvey Barnes, and that got them 87 points. That's ridiculous. That's more than my whole team. Mo Salah signed a new contract, and he will be here to terrorize us next season and confuse us now because it's like, do we just give him the captaincy already? In one of the most lopsided captaincies, Mr. Isak was captained by 92.64 people this game week. Salah was captained by 4.56 people. And Jacob Murphy was captained by 1.29 people. I mean percentages. And then you have Mateta. I'm sorry for you guys. 0.9, and Mamouche 0.1. Cunha has 35 bonus points this season, even though he has only made 24 starts. Only Chris Wood, in being a forward, has more bonus points to his name, which is 37. Ederson has now assisted 4 goals in the Premier League this season. No goalkeeper has ever recorded more than 2. Even though he's not the total assist record holder, which is Ryan Giggs, as we went over last week. When it comes to minutes per assist, KDB is up top. Every 177 minutes, he has an assist. Number 2 is Dennis Bergkamp, every 236 minutes. Number 3, Fabregas, 238. 4, Cantona, 246. And rounding up the top 5 was David Silva, every 258 minutes. In 26 years under Manchester United, Sir Alex had lost only 114 games. In the 12 years since Sir Alex has retired, they have lost 115 games. Only Southampton and Aston Villa have made more mistakes leading to goals than Manchester United. Southampton have made 19, Villa 13, and Manchester United 12. And if you saw the binders blunder, that's what they're talking about here. Chelsea have missed more big chances than any other team in the Premier League this season. 73 is the number. Mo Salah is just 2 goals away from tying the all-time record of 47 goal contributions in a Premier League season. Man United have 38 points, 10 wins, and they've scored only 38 goals. This is their worst ever Premier League season. Newcastle are the 4th team to complete a league double over Manchester United this season, the most teams to ever do so in a single season since 1957-58. No Liverpool manager has won more games in their first 50 games than Arne Slot. What a fast season he's having. Mark Gay scored an own goal against Newcastle in the game when they lost 5-0. What you may not know is that in the previous encounter, he also scored an own goal, which makes it the 2nd time in the Premier League that someone has scored an own goal in home and away fixtures. The first person to do this was Jamie Carragher when he did this against Tottenham in 1998-99 season. Ever since his Aston Villa debut in February, only Bruno Fernandes has created more chances in the Premier League. Bruno has created 40, Marcus Rashford has created 27, while no more player has more assists than Rashford, which is 5. So it goes to show maybe Manchester United might be the problem, but I still think this is his level. A random stat. Since the start of last season, Antoine Semenyo is one of 4 Premier League players to score at least 8 goals with both his left foot and his right foot, along with Mateta, who has scored 19 right, 9 left, Wissa 15 right, 8 left, and Wood 13 right, 8 left. Interesting to know. Newcastle secured their first league double over Manchester United since 1930-31. That's like over 90 years. And it's the first time they've scored 4 goals against Manchester United since 2001. Jacob Murphy is the first Newcastle United player to assist 10 goals in open play since Laurent Robert in 2001-02. He was a specialist. That's a blast from the past. Laurent Robert, wow. Harvey Barnes is just the 2nd Newcastle player to score a brace against Manchester United. It's just him, and number 1, of course, is Alan Shearer. Since his debut in 2015, Virgil van Dijk has scored more goals than any other central defender. 24. Aït-Nouri scored after 85 seconds. That is the quickest Wolves goal in the Premier League. Brentford are the only team in the Premier League to have two different players score 15 plus goals in the competition this season. Bumu has 16, Wissa has 15. It's a great duo. Mo Salah is averaging 1.44 goal involvements per 90 minutes in the Premier League this season, the most of any player in a single Premier League season, with a minimum of 1,000 minutes played. He's been the best. He's had a great season. With a new contract, I'm wondering if it's going to be one of those things where he gets a contract and then he relaxes next season. Ahead of this coming week, Saka is the most brought in player with 198,000 people bringing him in. Marmoush, 180,000 bringing him in. Rogers, 162,000 bringing him in. KDB, 146,000 bringing him in. Now watch him not play 2 games in a row. Saliba, 129,000 bringing him in. When it comes to players out, Kluivert, 177,000 have removed him. Ola Aina, 152,000 have removed him. Palmer, 152,000 have removed him. Gabriel, 119,000 have removed him. Wood, 105,000 have removed him. The average points for the game week was 56. If you got 56 or higher, well done. The highest points this week was 168. Wow. So, this team is called the Red Devils, probably a Manchester United fan. 168. Okay. In goal, Kepa, 11. Kerkez, 6. Munoz, -1. Aït-Nouri, 14. Mo Salah, 6. Sarr, 7. Harvey Barnes, triple captain, 81 points. Jacob Murphy, 19 points. Isak, 11 points. Marmoush, 7 points. Watkins, 7 points. And he only lost 4 points. What a great team this man had. Well done to you, sir. The highest points this week in our group belongs to Franklin Asiema, manager of The Truth. He had 106 points. In goal, he had Pickford, who gave him 9. He had Fabian Schär, who gave him 16. Munoz, who gave him a -1. Aït-Nouri, who gave him 14. Bruno, who gave him 2. Jacob Murphy, who gave him 19. Salah gave him 6. Palmer gave him 4. Mateta gave him 2. João Pedro gave him 13. Isak gave him 22. The second in our group was Playboy Fatty, 104 points. Avalanche FC, 104 points. Pandemonium, 100 points. And number 5, Eddie Cantona, 100 points. Most transfers made this game week was none other than Don Clinton, who made 6 transfers. Gotham FC made 5. Victor Nell made 5. Capin the Massive made 5. And Victor Nyabola made 5. Highest change in team value belongs to, can you believe it, managed by Cyril Mutali. He has added 0.7 to the bank. Essex City, managed by John Fadeli, has increased most in this week's overall rank, rising 628,000 positions. When it comes to our league, Eddie Cantona FC, who got 100 points, jumped 36 positions in our league table. Highest team value goes to Suraj Baigane. His team is now worth 106.2. This guy has held this position for, I think, virtually the whole season. When it comes to slightly not so happy news, Derek Mwangi, Yogo FC, has had the most disappointing transfer window this week. -25 points. Had he not done anything, he would have been 25 points better. Number 2 is Onyango Mandela, -21. Number 3 is Ayodele Oladuni, -13. Number 4 is Harry Potter, -8. And number 5 is Madman Bielsa, -8. Most points on the bench belong to Onyango Mandela, manager of Katambe. Used a wild card and then kept 35 points on the bench. That is painful considering he got 45. 35 on the bench is quite a lot. Who was on his bench? I'll tell you. Raya for 2, Ait Nouri 14, Kirkes 6, João Pedro 13. Number 2 is Neville Jabali, who had 34 points on the bench. Jojo Uta had 29 points on the bench. Low Key had 24 points on the bench. And PG Ongeri had 24 points on the bench. When it comes to worst team change value is Baba Haaland. Their team has dropped by 1.2 million. Poof, what a hit. Don't Managed by Don't Mind has dropped the most globally in our group, dropped 864,000 positions. When it comes to Red Arrows, Settings managed by Abdiaziz Guled have endured 9 game weeks in a row of Red Arrows. I'm sorry, brother. When it comes to the lowest points achieved in our group this week, that honor belongs to Kojo Danso, manager of Rico United, 14 points. How does one achieve such a feat? I will tell you. In goal, he had Cells, who gave him 3. Then he had Vardiol, who gave him 1. Castagne, who gave him 2. Harwood Bellis gave him 0. Odegaard gave him 0 as captain. Savinho gave him 1. Martinelli gave him 2. Foden gave him 0. Gakpo gave him 1. Solanke 2. Wood 2. You know, this is one of those teams that doesn't make sense. But anyway, that's how he got 14 points. No Salah means no effort. Number 2 was 17 points by Don't Mind. Number 3, Believe the Hype, got 21 points. Gift Mulangi got 25 points. And number 5, Pablo Sanjeev got 25 points. Malik United is a team that has the lowest team value, 96.3. Ayodele Alwaduni dropped 36 places in our table this week. It's getting tough towards the end for him. Best transfer outcome belongs to Avalanche FC, managed by Michael Miner. Gained 49 points by their shrewd acquisitions. Well done. He would have been 49 points lower had he not made these changes. That's wild. Number 2 is El Fleek, who's 39 points better. Baba Haaland is 31 points better. Eliud Joroge is 31 points better. And at number 5 is Jai Pasua, 31 points better. Well done. Team with the most goal scorers belongs to Avalanche FC, netting 9 goals from his team's players. When it comes to streak of green arrows, Ibrahim Ali, manager of Yaz, has been on the rise for the 7th straight week. When it comes to captain choices, 109 of us chose Isak to be our captain. 72 of us remained with Salah. 15 of us chose Haaland. Maybe 15 of us are not playing anymore. 10 of us chose Palmer. Let's see. 3 people chose Wood. 3 people chose Murphy. Well done, you're the strongest ones. 3 people chose Bruno Fernandes. 3 people chose Solanke. 2 people chose Son. 2 people chose Mateta. 2 people chose Kluivert. Those guys are definitely not playing. 2 people chose Saka. 2 people chose Odegaard. 1 person chose Højlund. Another one chose Pedro Porro. Another one chose Cunha. Another one chose Savinho. Another one chose KDB, but that one has had KDB the whole season, so that's not particularly wise. 1 chose Delap, which was trying to be sneaky. And another one chose Mitoma. When it comes to our league table, something interesting I noticed is that 6 out of the top 10 managers used their wildcard this week. 5 of the 6 got 80 points and above. Only 1 got 70. When looking at our league table, it is largely unchanged from number 1 to number 4. Number 1 is still Yusufa Mukoko. He got 88 points. 2205 is his tally. Duboy Original has 2178. Texas Tens 2177. OT Omondi has 2163. Number 5 is where we see the first change in our league table. Reece set pieces got 95 points, which propelled him up the table to 2162 points. Abdallah Kili has 87 points, which gave him 2160. David Moy, 2158. Number 8, 2129, Junior FC managed by Alan Mushangi. Charles Kadevilis, wow, he's had a great rise. 2126, which is tied with number 10, Eric Moranga, who has 2126 as well. I'm not sure if this is a trend, but it looks like the table is kind of stabilizing at the top. Of course, there's still time to go. Between number 1 and number 2 is 27 points. Between number 2 and number 3 is 1 point. Between number 3 and number 4 is 14 points. Between number 4 and number 5 is 1 point. Between 5 and 6 is 2. Between 6 and 7 is 2. Between 7 and 8 is just 29 points. Between number 8 and number 9 is 3 points. Number 9 and number 10 is tied, and number 10 and 11 is 4 points. 100 points from number 1 will take you to number 17. So as you can see, that gap of 100 points has reduced. There was a time it was up to number 36. The gap is building. So I'd say maybe number 1 to 16 are the real people who have a chance to win. At the bottom of the table, manager Don Clinton, the man who makes the most changes in our table, has finally crossed over the 1,000-point mark. They have 1052, got 86 points this week. And that puts him still at the last, with over 100 points below number second last, who has 1137. Third last has 1258. Fourth last has 1371. And fifth last has 1391. So it's only competitive from number 233 going up, where there are at least 3 people in the 1300s. And that is our league table. Looking at the global number 1. Number 1 in the world is Lovro Budisin. Team name is Einar Kraft Brie. They have 2380 points. And Lovro has been holding this position since last week. Lovro used his triple captain this week and triple captained Isak for 33 points. Then he had Mateta, who gave him 2 in a double game week. That's so painful. Mamouche 7, Jacob Murphy 19, Mo Salah 6, Eze 6, Palma 4, Fadiol 1, Livramento 8, Munoz -1, and Raya 2. It doesn't seem like he had many players that did well, but that's 87. As you all know, it's a double game week. So last week was a double game week. This week is a double game week. And now, as we approach this double game week, first of all, let me say it's Man City, Aston Villa, Arsenal, Crystal Palace, who are playing twice. The main question that is bugging me as we approach this double game week is, are double game weeks worth it? The right answer is, of course they're worth it when you hit on the right players. But having looked at this past game week, it was not worth it to have anyone outside Sarr and Eze. It was just a waste of your time. So the real question is now, if you're a Crystal Palace triple holder, are you happy with them playing Arsenal and Bournemouth? Is that easier than Manchester City and Newcastle? The answer is, at least for one of those fixtures, yes. Bournemouth is an easier team than Newcastle or Manchester City. Arsenal are better than Newcastle and better than Manchester City, at least on the standings. But in the Premier League, not so much. And by that I mean the recent form hasn't been impressive. Last week I thought because Arsenal were great against Real Madrid, they would beat Brentford, and that didn't happen. This week again, they were great and defeated Real Madrid once again. Does that mean they'll hammer these two teams? I have no idea. with the league gone, maybe it's time to just focus on Europe. Will he do a pep roulette? I have no idea. So the goal with the double game week, of course, is to double up as much as you can. But the thing is, now the double up comes at a cost. And the cost is a blank next week. Arsenal, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa and Manchester City will not play next week. So you have to think deeply a bit, because if you have a free hit left, then this does not matter at all. Just ignore everything. But if you do not have a double game week, if you don't have a free hit, it means next week you're going to lose points. So you have to decide to go in hard this week, because this is probably the last double game week left. So you go in all or nothing. And then you just lose points next week. Just get 10 players playing. That's what I'm going to do. Go hard every game week. So the real trick this week is to choose a captain that you feel will be the one. Who is the Harvey Barnes for this week? Let's go over the fixtures. This game week starts with Brentford versus Brighton. This game week starts on a Saturday. Now, Brentford and Brighton were disappointing last time out. Well, you can't really say that for Brentford because they drew with Arsenal, but Brighton disappointing because they drew with Leicester. In their last 5 games, they have 3 draws. 2 of those are 0-0s. And then they split the wins, with Brighton winning 1 and Brentford winning the other. This game should definitely not be on your bingo card for captaincy, unless you're going to gamble with João Pedro, who will score any penalties he's given if they get penalties. When it comes to unavailable players, Hickey, Carvalho, Thiago da Silva are injured for Brentford. Webster, Kadioglu, Rutter, Igor, Milner, Steele, Veltman, Mitoma, Lamptey are unavailable for Brighton. Honestly, what's happening with Milner? He hasn't played since forever. Anyway. Now, when it comes to Brentford players, honestly, it's Wissam Bomo. You just had both of them have scored over 15 goals this season. And then you choose one of the Dams guards. One of the guards, either Dams guards or no guard. If that's not going to tickle your fancy, maybe you go with a defender, since you've seen 2 0-0s. And those 2 0-0s are the last 2 encounters that these two played. So it seems like they're fairly even. On the Brighton end, you can't bet against João Pedro. But then now that we will choose him, he won't score. So pick your poison. So it's João Pedro, maybe Mente, and a defender if you believe that this game will be another draw. A 0-0 draw. Crystal Palace versus Bournemouth. If there's anything this last double game week has taught me, it's that if you're getting Crystal Palace players, get the midfielders. Get Isak, get Sarr, and then gamble. Gamble with Mateta, gamble with Munoz. Their last game was a 0-0 draw. Before that, Bournemouth won the 2 previous ones, and Crystal Palace won the 2 previous ones. So 2 wins for either side. So the goal variation is 2-0. When Bournemouth win, it's 2-0. When Crystal Palace win, it's 2-0. Apart from that, it's a draw. So depending on who you think will win, it'll be close. So you're not expecting too much. So this might also not be a great choice for captaincy. Riyad and Doucouré are unavailable for Crystal Palace, whilst Unal, Kluivert, Sinistera, Christie are unavailable for Bournemouth. Bournemouth won last time out, and it was from a goal from Semenyo. So Semenyo, Kerkez, and maybe Evan Nilsson. He has been in good form of late. Everton versus Manchester City. Everton are a completely different side since Mr. Moyes took over. It's hard to believe they were actually threatened with relegation. They're now 13th in the table and ahead of Manchester United even. In 5 matches against City, Everton have drawn twice and lost 3 times. Now with Moyes, maybe they can get a draw. I don't think they can win, but a draw wouldn't be unreasonable. They are sturdy at the back and they can go forward sort of. It's not a game I would encourage you to get into on the Everton side because Manchester City are the better team. But Pickford and then your choice of Doucouré, Ondiai, or Beto wouldn't be bad. On the other end, you know Mamouche will play, you know Vardiol will play. After that, I don't know. Edison picked up a knock, so he might not be a great person to choose, but their sub-keeper might be somebody worth choosing. If you want to gamble with KDB, he might play, he might not play. I don't know. It's a double game week for them, so who knows what will happen. They might want him fresh for that FA Cup, you know? So it might be Doku or Savio's time. Pep Roulette is just so frustrating. Calvert-Lewin, Lindstrom and Mangala are unavailable for Everton, whilst Edison, Haaland, Stones, Akanji, Ake, Foden, Rodri are unavailable for Manchester City. West Ham versus Southampton. This might be the first time Southampton have a chance to win. No, but this might be the first time West Ham have a chance to win. Both teams have been so poor. Both teams were poor last time out, as has been for a while for these two teams, and will just be looking to do better. West Ham could just scrape a 1-0 win last time out, and of course they have a favourable record against Southampton. Who doesn't at this point? Bowen, Kudus, Souček, Füllkrug. But Bowen should be your first choice, and then the others in whatever choice you want. And probably Wan-Bissaka. He's been doing well for them. On the other end, if you want a Southampton player, it's really Onuachu, Sulemana, and Fernandes. Somerville and Antonio are out for West Ham, whilst Kronbeck, Taylor, Onuachu's injured, and Fraser. So scratch Onuachu, go Fernandes, go Archer, maybe Dibbling. Why not? But also, don't get Southampton players. I'm just giving you, just to be fair. I'm just giving you options, just to be fair. However, if you think Ramsdale can capture lightning twice, put in Aston Villa versus Newcastle. Now, this is going to be a tough game to call because these two teams seem to be playing at a similar level. The last time they met, however, Newcastle just thrashed them. Now, after watching Crystal Palace disappoint me, I am not going to go into Aston Villa hoping for anything else than them being hammered. Because listen to the last encounters against Newcastle. Newcastle 3-0, Newcastle 3-1, Newcastle 5-1, Newcastle 3-3, and then Aston Villa 3-0. That is their 5 games counting backwards. And that says Newcastle have the most recent advantage. And if you look at how their players are playing, it's hard to argue against them. If you somehow believe this time will be different, you have to believe that even though Asensio missed 2 penalties, that he may still be on penalty duty. Him, then you have Rashford and McGinn. Yeah, those are the 3. And then for Newcastle, whoever you had from the last game week, because it doesn't make sense to change unless you're changing one of those guys for Harvey Barnes. If you're not changing one of those guys for Harvey Barnes, there's no need to change. So Newcastle, whoever you had last week, don't change them because you already have the Newcastle players that you had. Fulham versus Chelsea. Chelsea, ever since they were called title contenders, have just really been like absolute trash. They were looking like they were going to push this Champions League thing. Now, honestly, I'm just happy Champions League has 5 positions because it means they can get number 5. But for that to happen, they have to depose either Manchester City or Forest, because those are the only 2 teams that look like they will be possibly slipping up. Because for Chelsea to perform, I think they need others to not perform because it is not in their hands at this point. Chelsea have won 3, drawn 1 and lost 1 to Fulham, with their most recent encounter being their only loss to Fulham, which to me means that Fulham have the slight upper hand. Even though they lost to Bournemouth, they beat Liverpool last time out, and they will be convinced that they can beat Chelsea. Now, Palmer scored the last time they played, so for people who still have Palmer, I'm sure that's what you're hoping for. On the other end, Muniz and Harry Wilson scored. Now, Harry Wilson is unavailable along with Nelson for Fulham, while Slonina, Guiu, Kellyman, Lavia, Fofana are unavailable for Chelsea. Should you believe Chelsea have a chance to win this game, you know it's going to come through Palmer, Mr. Jackson, and your pick of Neto or Sancho. On Fulham's end, Muniz, Iwobi, and maybe a defender, because Chelsea are iffy. And when I said defender, I'm talking about either Robinson or Castagna, those who will cross. Ipswich take on Arsenal. Now, I'll honestly be hoping for an Arsenal clean sheet in this fixture. So I have my defender ready to go. However, Ipswich are just trouble. They just keep scoring. Last time they went 2-0 up against Chelsea and that game ended 2-2. They were lucky not to lose, but that's been their thing. They've been fighting. They make the game competitive. And because of that, it's hard to recommend Arsenal defense because there's a possible score in this game for both teams. And if you believe so, you know it's going to be Delap. If you want a sneaky pick, Johnson, who had a goal and an assist, played at the right wing, and he's registered as a defender, and he's 3.8. That's easy pickings, honestly. So Delap, Johnson, and Ciso. Those are the picks for Ipswich. On the Arsenal end, Merino is still playing up top, so he's there. Then you got Saka and Martinelli. Martinelli just scored against Real Madrid yesterday, so I'm high on him. And if you believe in the defense, pick your defender. If it's Raya, have him. If it's Timber or Saliba or Kiwior, go for it. Manchester United against Wolves. Honestly, I feel like bringing in Cunha and Aït-Nouri so much because they play Manchester United and then Leicester, and those are the same. That's the same WhatsApp. They beat Manchester United last time 2-0 with Cunha and Huang scoring. It must be said Bruno got a red card in that game, so maybe it would have been different had he not gotten the red card. Apart from that win, Manchester United have won the previous 4 encounters. So that tells me Man United are favourites. They kind of have the advantage in this fixture. I don't know why. If they don't get down to 10 men, they will be likely to win. That is what the history says. But that's not what Amorim is doing. So I don't want to say bet against Manchester United, but Wolves are slight favourites in better form, and they have the better manager at this point. Zirkzee got injured, so he's unavailable. Ahmad, Evans, Martinez, De Ligt, and Collier are also unavailable. On the other end, Gonzalez, Bellegarde, Chiwom, Doherty, Lima, Kaladzic, Mosquera are unavailable. So if you're picking Manchester United players, it's now Højlund, Garnacho, Fernandes. For Wolves, Cunha, Bellegarde, Strand Larsen. Leicester versus Liverpool. Should I say more? Should I even go over anything in this game? I'm just going to make this short. Pick Salah, Diaz, and maybe McAllister, or a defender, because I don't believe Leicester are going to score in this game. Liverpool are favourites. This game will be contributing to their title. And yeah, let me just read for you who's unavailable. Sutar, Winks, Fatawu, Monga, Edward, Faish are unavailable for Leicester. Nunez, Gomez, Trent, Morton unavailable for Liverpool. Yeah, so just bring in your Liverpool defender or attackers. Just whatever you've got going on with Liverpool. Yeah. Gakpo, Jones, and Salah scored last time they played, and Ayew scored for Leicester. Don't get Leicester players for this game. I'm not even going to recommend any. Tottenham Hotspur versus Nottingham Forest. Whew. Both teams were beaten last time out. Spurs made so many mistakes against Wolves. They played like amateurs. Honestly, I don't know how he's going to keep his job. Mr. Ange. Maybe tonight they're playing in the Europa League. If they lose to Frankfurt, he'll probably be sacked after that game, because I think at this point that's the only thing keeping him in the job. Now, the head-to-head favors Spurs. They have won 3, and Forest have won 2. Forest won the most recent one, with Elanga being the goal scorer. Aina and Awoniyi are out, while Son and Dragusin are out. Now, it must be said that these people are playing in Europe, and by these people I mean Spurs. So when choosing a Spurs player, just wait for this game and see who's still fit if you must have a Spurs player. And for Forest, will they keep a clean sheet? Who knows? So if you believe they will, it'll be Milenkovic and Sells. Choose your defender. If you believe in them going forward, Wood, Morgan Gibbs-White, and Elanga are your best options. For Spurs, depending on how Europe goes, the lineup might be tricky, so it's hard to recommend. But I'll just say Brennan Johnson, Maddison, and Solanke. Yeah. And then on Tuesday, we will have the first of the double game week fixtures, which will see Manchester City take on Aston Villa. Aston Villa beat Manchester City 2-1 the last time out, with Foden scoring the one at the death, so it should have really been 2-0. Jean Duran and Rogers scored. Now, Aston Villa just lost to PSG, but they gave a good, they lost, but they won on the night. But they will be encouraged. They will be encouraged. They have won 2, drawn 2, lost 1. No, sorry. They have won 2, lost 2, drawn 1 with Manchester City in the previous 5. So anyone can win this game. Now, honestly, my feeling is Aston Villa are the Crystal Palace of this double game week. I believe in just choosing 1 or 2 of their midfield players. Don't bank on their defense. They're going to concede. Foden is the highest scoring player in this fixture, but he's unavailable. So I would just say, just like in the last one, choose Mamouche, Vardiol, and your pick of midfielder. By this point, whoever you will have chosen in the first leg of the Manchester City will still be here. So whoever you choose considering these 2 fixtures. Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. Arsenal, let me just read you the results of the last 5 encounters. Arsenal won 5-1, Arsenal won 3-2, Arsenal won 5-0, Arsenal won 1-0, Arsenal won 4-1. So it is clear that Crystal Palace are not favorites for this encounter. Honestly, I'm going to be removing my defender from this fixture. I'm done. I'm just going to go to Liverpool. Munoz, thanks, but no thanks. Now, in the recent history, Jesus is a top scorer in this fixture, but he's unavailable. So you'll be looking at the people who you chose. So will you be having Saka? Will you have Merino? Will you have your defender? And that's it. So whoever you chose in the first leg, that will be the person you should be choosing considering this leg. Will it be Martinelli? On the Crystal Palace end, I would just say remove your defender. Remove your defender. If you had Munoz, get him off. And then watch him score 3 goals. And that fixture will see the end of the double game week. Now, when it comes to choosing a captain, honestly, as you all know, it makes sense to choose from a double game week team. Harvey Barnes showed that last week. Now, this week, who will be the Harvey Barnes? It's hard to know, so let's look at the people playing twice. Now, the people playing twice, as we know, are Manchester City, Aston Villa, Arsenal, and Crystal Palace. Man City are playing Aston Villa and Everton, whilst Arsenal are playing Ipswich and Crystal Palace. So, honestly, you know that your captain should be coming from Arsenal. they have on paper the weakest fixtures. Anyway, let's start from the top. Brentford versus Brighton, don't choose a captain. Crystal Palace versus Bournemouth, if you believe Mateta or Sarr or Eze, that's where you choose them for this game. Man City versus Everton, you have Mamouche, Vardiol, and KDB. I can't disregard what he did in the last game week. So KDB, let me just be strong. KDB, that's a captain choice. West Ham versus Southampton, if you must, you can choose Bowen. Aston Villa versus Newcastle, since Aston Villa are playing twice, you have to think and say maybe Watkins or Rashford or Asensio. Bas, that is it. And if you're on the Newcastle end, maybe take Harvey Barnes or Jacob Murphy. So Isak, I'll take Isak. Those other two have great numbers. They're in great form. Chelsea versus Fulham, do not choose a captain. Ipswich versus Arsenal, is it Saka? Is it Martinelli? Is it Odegaard? Is it Merino? Your captain choice in this fixture will determine everything. Man United versus Wolves, if you're not choosing Bruno Fernandes, don't choose a Manchester United player. Wolves, Cunha or Aït-Nouri. Leicester versus Liverpool, Salah or Diaz. Spurs versus Forest, that is a tough one. I wouldn't recommend a captain in this fixture. Man City versus Aston Villa, whoever you will have chosen will be the captain for this fixture. Arsenal versus Crystal Palace, whoever you have chosen will be the captain here. So if you believe it's Saka, that's fine. And those are your captain choices, or rather your captain possibilities. Looking at the FPL FDR, starting with Arsenal. This week, as you know, they play Ipswich and Crystal Palace. Then there's a blank. Then they have Bournemouth, Liverpool, and Newcastle. So if you can survive the blank, their fixtures actually will be a little bit tricky. Aston Villa have Newcastle, Man City, then the blank, then the Fulham, Bournemouth, Tottenham. And those are fine fixtures. Much easier than this double game week for sure. Bournemouth have Crystal Palace, Man United, Arsenal, Aston Villa, and Man City. So after the Manchester United game, the games become increasingly difficult. Brentford have Brighton, Forest, Man United, Ipswich, and Fulham. Honestly, get into Brentford after this double game week. Brighton have Brentford, West Ham, Newcastle, Wolves, and Liverpool. Whew. The only easy game here is West Ham. Brighton are in patchy form right now. Chelsea have Fulham, Everton, Liverpool, Newcastle, and Manchester United. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost all of them except the Manchester United game. So proceed with caution. They're just too unpredictable. Crystal Palace have Bournemouth and Arsenal, then the blank, and then they have Forest, Spurs, and Wolves. Honestly, that doesn't sound too bad. Everton have Man City, Chelsea, Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton. After the Chelsea game, Everton will be good. Fulham have Chelsea, Southampton, Aston Villa, Everton, and Brentford. Apart from Southampton, the games are sort of even. They could go either way. Ipswich have Arsenal, Newcastle, Everton, Brentford, and Leicester. Has been the case for Ipswich this whole season. They're competitive, but most of the time they will lose, and this should stay true. Leicester have Liverpool, Wolves, Southampton, Forest, Ipswich. They should lose all of those games. Liverpool have Leicester, Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton. Wow. So after Leicester, the games become increasingly difficult, and it is in this stretch that they will win the title. You don't necessarily need to have Liverpool defenders, but investing in the midfield / attack wouldn't be a bad idea. Man City have a bit of an easy run. Everton, Aston Villa, then a blank, then Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth. Get into them. Get the people who are not droppable, like Mamouche and Vardiol. Man United have Wolves, Bournemouth, Brentford, West Ham, Chelsea. In theory, they could get results here, but only Bruno is the player worth recommending from them. Newcastle have Aston Villa, Ipswich, Brighton, Chelsea, Arsenal. Honestly, outside Arsenal, I believe they could beat everybody else here. Forest have Spurs, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Leicester, and West Ham. On paper, these are good fixtures, but Nottingham Forest are not as stable as they have been. But still, they're the fourth best team in the country, so don't bet against them. Southampton have West Ham, Fulham, Leicester, City, Everton. They should lose all of those games. Spurs have Forest, Liverpool, West Ham, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa. With Spurs, as you know, they're not having a great season, but they're also so unpredictable. So they could get a surprise win here and surprise losses. Yeah, just proceed with caution with them. West Ham have Southampton, Brighton, Tottenham, Man United, Forest. Bowen would be great to have in these fixtures. Wolves have Man United, Leicester, City, Brighton, Crystal Palace. Outside Man City and Brighton, I think the rest of the games they should win. And that brings us to the end of the podcast. I hope this double game week treats you better. See you on the pitch. Bye.